Happy Saturday. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. I got a packed day today, but I had to just get on here and record a podcast real quick for you because there's a bunch of really interesting stuff that has happened in AI. I want to cover it all for you and make sure you guys got the latest and greatest as we go into the weekend. Today on the podcast, we're going to be covering all of the drama from Google and Gemini. We're going to be talking about Meta and their new Imagine with Meta image generator. We're going to be talking about Apple and their new AI play that they've made. We're going to be talking about StabilityAI, Google DeepMind, Elon Musk's Grok AI. There's a whole bunch of really interesting things we're going to be talking about here. Before we jumped in, I wanted to give a huge shout out and thank you. We've just passed over 250 investors on the AI Box campaign. AI Box is my own no-code AI app builder and marketplace. If you're interested in investing in a brand new AI startup, you could go check out our campaign we're currently doing on republic.com/AI-box. I'll leave a link in the show notes as well. We have also officially passed $277,000 raised to date. We have around 80 days remaining in our campaign, and we're shooting to raise $1.2 million. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, I'll leave a link in the show notes, but let's get into the podcast today. Welcome to the world's #1 AI podcast, AI Chat. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. So the first thing I feel like we have to talk about here is Google Gemini. Now, of course, this was the big, ChatGPT 4 killer that Google rolled out. It was supposed to compete at a very high level. And to be honest, there's a lot of really interesting, great things here. Unfortunately, I was super excited and thrilled about everything happening with Gemini, and I recorded a podcast about it. And I feel like I got a little bait and switched by Google because it has now come out that most of their demo video they did that everyone was kind of raving about, I did a whole podcast episode about this, was fake or staged. So I'm taking you on the roller coaster with me. I'm talking a little bit about what actually happened. So when I was looking at some of this reporting on this, essentially there's a couple things that people complained about. So number one, it's not like Google Gemini doesn't have the capabilities of doing a lot of these different things. It's just the way that they created their video and their demo around this was pretty much fake. They pretty much had a video where it was, someone talking with an AI model, and there was like this live video feed. It was super impressive because the whole, live video feed was, responding to everything they were doing. Now, it turns out this was fake. What they actually did was just uploaded images to it and had it respond the same way we have, GPT-4 Vision. So I was like, oh my gosh, it has this video feed. You can have a video talking with it. It knows everything you're doing. It's very conversational. No, turns out they just uploaded images. And in addition to that, they cut the video so it seemed like it could offer instantaneous responses, when in reality, it was just like any other AI model, which is slow. So everyone that was me included, was like, oh my gosh, Google's leapfrogging OpenAI with all these capabilities, was completely wrong. They were just kind of tricking us. And in addition, so there's a couple things, right? They edited the video to make it look like it was faster. They made it look like it was a video instead of just uploading images. And the final thing that really annoys me with Google, look, Google, I want to like you, but this is, it definitely is a very scammy tactic. The last thing they did was the prompts that they gave it. People showed the prompts that they actually used, and with the rock, paper, scissors one, so they had a person doing just shaking their hand for a rock, shaking their hand for scissors, shaking their hand for paper, for rock, paper, scissors. And Google's like, oh, look, the Gemini model was like, oh, look, you're playing rock, paper, scissors. That's a fun game, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, it can tell what they're doing. No, what it actually was they took 3 pictures of rock, paper, someone making rock, someone making paper, and someone making scissors with their hands. And they said, what am I doing in this photo? Hint, it's a game. Literally their prompts, they're hinting at saying, hint, it's a game. Come on. If it couldn't just tell you from saying, what am I doing in this photo? I don't want hints in this thing. So anyways, I just felt like they went above and beyond to kind of trick people. Wasn't cool. And I'll say the reason they did it is because immediately after doing this big launch, their stock price went up 5%, and on a $1.7 trillion company, that equates to over $80 billion. Now, when everyone found out that a lot of it was staged and fake, their stock price went down 1.5%, I think. So I think to them, they're like, yeah, look, we got it up 5%, went back down 1.5%. We're still making billions of dollars. This is great. So overall, not a cool move from Google. The next story I want to talk about is Meta. Meta has launched Imagine with Meta. This is a standalone web-based generative AI experience, which essentially creates images. Now, I've seen a bunch of comparison images where people are comparing. Adobe has an image generator. Of course, there's Midjourney. Then there's OpenAI's DALL-E 3, and then this new Imagine with Meta tool. And I have to say, of the 4 tools, I saw some like essentially Twitter threads where they used a similar prompt. Or asked it for the same thing. Maybe they tweaked the prompt for the model a little bit, but they asked it for a similar thing on all 4 platforms and generated the images. And I'll say all of them are very decent image generators. Midjourney seemed the most realistic, like, oh my gosh, it looks like a human. OpenAI is really good, and I want to like DALL-E 3. It's way, way, way better than DALL-E 2, and it's built into ChatGPT, so it's the most accessible, I think. But if I'm being 100% honest, Midjourney is better than DALL-E 3. It looks just more realistic. Like, for example, it's like small things, but like they did like the face of a girl, and like in Midjourney, it looked super freaking realistic. It was a girl in Greece with a blue scarf. And then for the DALL-E 3 image, it's like a really realistic girl with a blue scarf, but like her eyebrows look like sort of painted, and her face looks like a little too smooth, you know? And it just like wasn't as realistic. So I think that. And then Meta, of course, came in, and Meta was probably, it bounced between them, but like I think Midjourney still is a solid 10 to 20% better than everything else, if I'm being 100% honest, especially across, like, you're just going to get better results. And then there was things where it was like asking for like vector images, and like, yes, all 4 models created like vector images, but Midjourney's vector image was like super trendy and cool, and like one that I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want to put that thing on my app. And the other ones were like, yeah, it's a vector image of the thing, but it's like, you know, like sometimes when you're on Google and you're like searching for a specific thing, like there's all the old school images. Somehow Midjourney knows what's like modern and trendy and cool and aesthetic and good. And the other ones can generate images that you might find on Google Images, but they're just like kind of like the older clip art stuff. I guess that's my best way to describe it. So all this to say, it's an impressive tool from Meta, but I do think in like a side-by-side, Midjourney is definitely still winning, and I still think Midjourney is actually beating DALL-E 3. So this is not a bad thing. I think it's good to have a lot of competition, and I would hope that, you know, a company like Midjourney, where their only job is to create an AI model, is going to be able to create the best AI model. So honestly, nothing wrong here, but I think that's, you know, where it stands. The next thing I want to bring up is Apple, which Apple has introduced MLX and MLX data. So this is an open source machine learning framework, both of these. So there's 2 frameworks here, and these are designed to efficiently run on Apple silicon. So MLX, this was inspired by PyTorch and JAX, and essentially it allows data to be processed in supported devices without movement, right? So, I mean, we're getting to a point where you can start thinking, you know, Google's made some moves in the same space where essentially Google has started building AI models like their new Gemini. I think their lowest tier of Gemini is able to run on their new Pixel phones. And so I think we might be getting to a point where we're going to start seeing Apple building this tech so they can run AI models right on the phone. And when people are like, okay, well, what's the point of all that? The point of all that is that if you can run the AI models right on the phones, like right on your iPhone, all of a sudden that makes it so that 2 big benefits. Number one is security. You don't have to get your data, like your images or your text messages, off of your phone into an external AI model to run through and help you, like, for example, write texts or fix your images or fix your videos or generate, you know, images or videos. All of that can be done on your phone. So it's great for security. And then the other thing that people really love about it is if you don't have any cell reception, you're off the grid somewhere, you could still use it. And beyond just using it for like image generation, think of the benefits of like you're in a survival situation, you're hiking somewhere, you lose reception, and you're like sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, is this plant in front of me edible? I'm starving. You take a picture of it and your phone could be like, yeah, this plant is probably edible, blah, blah, blah. Here's a bunch of information about what it is. And it could do that without reception. So I think that there's like some serious value to essentially when you get these AI models, if you could actually run them on your device, you're downloading like the corpus of all the information on the entire internet eventually onto your phone, and you're able to have like a device that just has this regardless of having cell reception. And you know what's interesting? I think that might be actually one of the biggest. People talk about like how OpenAI is like a Google killer. I don't really think it is. But doing something like this where you have, the ability to answer questions embedded into every device, I think, especially if it's not even on the internet, I think that might be something that would be a bigger threat to Google. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes in the future. The other thing I wanted to talk about is StabilityAI. They have just introduced Stable LM Zephyr 3B. So this is a new $3 billion parameter LLM. The thing that's interesting about this is that it is 60% smaller than their 7 billion parameter models. And this enables efficient use on edge devices, right? Again, we're moving from just having this stuff on big servers and actually putting these onto devices. So this one is specifically tailored for instruction following and also Q&A tasks. Wrapping up here, if you haven't heard, Elon Musk has launched Grok with X.I on Twitter. And essentially, this is a GPT-4 competitor called Grok. It's kind of irreverent. It will answer any question you ask it. Here's the thing that I actually think is valuable about this beyond kind of the marketing side of it is that Grok is trained and has access to real-time tweets, which means it has all data that is happening in real time. So I decided to do an experiment with this. I tested it out yesterday. You have to be a X Premium Plus subscriber. When I heard that this was a stipulation, I think like a month ago, I went and got an X Premium Plus subscription so I could test this out for you guys. But the thing that I tried that was really impressive was that I asked it, what is the breaking AI news happening on X today? And it gave me a rundown of the top 3 stories that were like from yesterday. I asked it yesterday, and it gave me the top 3 stories. And then it also sorted or cited like articles and tweets where people were talking about all that kind of stuff. So really, really impressive. This is something you obviously don't get with something like ChatGPT that has a language cutoff of, I believe, April. So this will be an interesting one to follow and see what kind of adoption this gets going forward into the future.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
Thank you for listening to the AI Chat Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, I'd appreciate it if you rate me wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're looking for an innovative group of AI enthusiasts, make sure you check out our Discord channel and also our Facebook community. It's obviously a lot more interactive than a podcast where we can actually share software tools, prompts that we're using in everyday AI. I'll leave a link for those in the description below.